Today, we are talking about Rogue Blight. This is a new indie game being created as a roguelite. You go through rounds of enemies, get passive abilities, armors, and weapons, and then take on a boss. The further you can make it in a run, the more rewards you can get in the form of mushrooms that can be used to level up your character overall. I have personally played through the entire demo many times at this point, as it has an endless increase in difficulty you can work your way up. This is an incredibly fun game that I really don't have any criticisms of at all. While some roguelites waste your time with slowly finding opponents, Rogue Blight keeps you fighting, upgrading, and fighting again as fast as you like. So now that you know what you're getting into, let's take a closer look at this. Obviously, this is a demo, so keep in mind things are subject to change and this isn't full access to the entire game by any means. You have a total of 3 selections for a character, letting you restart for whatever reason you like and still keep a more progressed character active. Once inside, you have a decent character creator allowing for color changes, different hairstyles, all the essentials. It isn't as complex as some AAA games make it, while also still having enough options to make someone unique. Or if you're like me and don't really care much about this aspect at all, you could select a preset or randomize. It's really all up to you. In the tutorial, we find out this is a complete 2D adventure, simplifying our controls a lot. We have health, mana, and stamina in the top left. Lower left, there's a slot for your offhand, your main hand, dash, and then potions. You have a mana and health potion that can be replenished through various random encounters or at campfires often found before bosses. The dash is very quick with a near instant cooldown, just be aware it does consume stamina, so don't be wasteful. Now in the main part of the game, you could begin a new run. At the start, you could select your preferred weapon type. At first, you only have one option, but level stuff up enough and you get a sword, a wand, or a dagger. Here is the map and where you're going to spend the more important part of your time. There's usually going to be split paths to select from. Take one and you cannot take the other. Skulls are enemies. Once inside, you fight some variation of a monster. Enemy variety is decent sized while also not that big. I assume we will see a lot more in the full version of the game, so not much to speak on that right now. If you die, that specific run is over and you have to go back to the hub area. Win and you gain random rewards. Items such as armor, weapons, gold, and mushrooms. All equipment in the game can be picked up and used at any time, although depending on the things you get, some will obviously be more enticing over others. Dice rolls are really interesting as these are essentially random encounters. Sometimes an NPC grants new armor, a scarecrow might offer up an upgrade, or you could just find a stat increase. You usually want to find a path that has many of these as they can grant you the best increase in power for a build. Chests all offer a blessing or what is simply a passive buff. This is the most roguelite aspect that will determine your builds. You could get a bubble that takes 1 free damage hit per round, maybe some daggers that are thrown out every few seconds, or even negative skill cooldown. There are a ton of options. Statue heads take you to a simple statue offering more stamina, health, and mana. Choose wisely as all skills cost some mana to use, but you must have enough stamina to attack often, while at the same time you don't want to die from lack of HP. Big determining factor here that changes the feel of every single run. Gold bags are shops where you can buy gear or different blessings. Save up gold for these because blessings are not cheap. You could get more points of interest for upgrades one run and then the next to get mostly combat encounters. It really does change depending on the randomness you happen to get. Here you can see the character inventory that is accessible anytime you're in the open map. Your helmet, chest, arms, pants, and boots can be swapped out at any time you acquire better gear. There's going to be 2 slots for your main hand weapons and 2 for your offhand, although the second ones are an upgrade you need to purchase with the mushrooms. Every weapon tells you what it scales with in the form of dex, strength, or intelligence. Most often they are self-explanatory, like wand is intelligence, dagger is dex, and sword would be strength. But there are some unique options occasionally. Armor will also have passive int, dex, or strength buffs, so be sure you don't just throw on every single new piece of armor you get. Take a look at the stats and match them to what you're using. 2 bosses were included in this demo. One of them is after the first big section of buffing and enemy encounters. I really enjoyed both of the fights. Thought they had a lot of variety for this type of game, making it challenging but not impossible to survive. Manage to win against a boss and you get multiple really valuable rewards. Then you do the same thing again to reach the next boss. Stop for enemies, gain buffs when possible, and do be sure to find campfires here and there. They fully restore your health and mana if you run out. The second boss is at the end of the demo. After he's defeated, you unlock an expanded loot pool. First run, I gained fire items, then I unlocked rock items, bleed, frost, water. All of this is added added into the loot pool after each full win. So on your next run, you can make a new build with different skills other weapon types have, and you get mushrooms for your effort, sending you back to the main hub. Here's where all your NPCs reside. You have a researcher who explains statuses and dual wielding. The beehive-looking creature is where you spend your mushrooms to upgrade your entire character, essentially. More health from health potions, new weapon slots, increased random encounters, level up dex, enter strength. One of them lets you start every new run off with a random set of buffs to select from. You will need to complete many runs to collect all the mushrooms for this, creating a good reward system where every new run grants more buffs that make the next one more interesting, or just making you more powerful in general. Next, we have the Blacksmith, which on the game map you could choose to level up your random items when you find her. Sacrifice loot you don't need into an item to make it much stronger. At the hub, instead, she affects your starting gear, which you only unlock a few different options in the demo. There are many slots here, although this was the one lacking feature that I noticed. None of the armor tells you what it actually does, so you need to jump into a run to find out if you should actually use it or not. I already spoke with the dev about this, and he said it was a common complaint or really just a detail players thought was a bit lacking. He mentioned that a tooltip section will be included to fix this. And lastly, we have the merchant who lets you start a new run. In the demo, there's only one map to go through, but there will be more later on, as you can see. Every time you beat that specific map, a new difficulty will be unlocked for it. Right now, you can see on difficulty 1, enemies do 30% more damage, but most other stats are not increased. Well, how about here at level 13, which I just reached? Enemies get 186% more damage, 43% more speed, more health, and what I assume is statuses apply on you faster. You will also get more mushrooms per difficulty you beat, starting with like 10 and then moving all the way up to what I have now at 20. And as far as I was told, the difficulty is endless. Eventually it does stop increasing enemy stats to a point, but the difficulty number you can reach and brag about is unlimited. So that's kinda cool. And on the very left where you spawn in at, you could see a leaderboard of the best runs. Currently for the demo, I am in second, which I imagine is not gonna last all that long, but hey, I was here. Now you know pretty much every detail about how the game runs, what items do, and likely most of you already know whether or not you might like this game. But just in case you're still on the fence, let's quickly check out some of the cool builds I was able to piece together so far. Ice Sword and Ice Shield. The sword freezes enemies in place if you build up that status while having a ranged icicle skill. The shield can act like a parry to hunker you behind protective ice that blasts damage back to the enemy, also applying freeze. This was possibly the most fun item to mess with overall. While tricky to get the hang of, it reflects a massive amount of damage, and yes, this works on bosses as well. Just wait for an enemy to attack, hunker, and now you block all damage while dealing it as well. Shields in general are great, although you want more stamina with them, no doubt about it. And honestly, there were so many cool moments with this thing where I blocked at just the right time, reflecting a multi-hit that chunked down an enemy's health bar. How about an Ice Wand and an Earth Wand? The Ice Wand freezes very quickly as its skill summons a mist, continuously dealing frost buildup. Then you summon earthquakes under an enemy with the other wand to build up earth status. This one applied guarantees crit from all damage sources. So frozen enemy that cannot move, guaranteed extra damage from crit, and nice medium range shots of magic from the wand. Very safe comparatively and really strong for control. I also had a run where I decreased my status buildup but increased my regular damage. This saw me select an iron sword with a basic mobility skill and a bleed katana that builds up a burst of damage. Used both together and the damage was through the roof. And in general, dual wielding is really cool. This allows you to mix and match different weapons together, or when using two weapons of the same type, you attack with both at the same time. Daggers get really fast slashes, swords hit like a truck but twice, and wands shoot out 2 projectiles. You deal 40% less damage, but you're also attacking twice in one instance. So in general, it's like dual wielding is a 10% damage bump if your weapons are a shared type. Bleed Dagger and Ice Shield was incredibly fun, as Ice Shield is like the coolest thing in the game, I already talked about it, but a Bleed Dagger is really fast, letting you rapidly counterattack after blocking damage. You can even get really cool helmets with powerful stat increases like a Mimic Helmet. When worn, you gain 5 extra max health, stamina, and mana after every enemy encounter. Also looks kinda awesome, I must admit. How about the fact that tank builds are going to be a major strategy? Not only can you get invulnerability stats, defensive increases, and all that, but water-based weapons build up a status that heals you when it procs. So as long as you keep a water effect in play, you can slowly regen your damage taken back up to full. Which personally I think is really nice, as in many roguelites it feels like there's kind of a frustrating way of getting healing. Might be that if you feel this way, the water debuff is right for you. And this is only skimming the surface. Infinite meteor spam with fire wands, shield throw throw only with a bleed shield, double aerial attacks keeping you safe off the ground, the build potential is surprisingly high. I actually found it impossible to not try something new because they always threw different passives, weapons, and statuses my way. Replayability is through the roof on just this very small demo we were given here. And I think that's about all I have to say about Rogue Blight. This was sent to me by the dev to try out early, and I did not know what to expect. But boy, was I pleasantly surprised. Super simple and clean mechanics that keep you engaged 100% of the time. And both bosses shown were really fun to master. Very clear second phases at half health, adding new attacks that kept you on edge. The only thing I genuinely hate is this is a demo and not a full release. And I can't play the entire game right now. Which, in my book, is the best thing you could say about a demo. So hopefully this developer just keeps putting in the good work, adding in shock weapons like I heard he might do, giving us more enemies with new maps, and honestly having fun with it. You could tell by how interesting some of the skills were that there's a lot of passion for good combat here. So should Rogue Blight be in your Steam wishlist? Yes. For me, it was a definite yes. I really cannot get enough content out of this demo, and I'm excited for what we might get to see in the future. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and any extra info you might want can be found down below in the description. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.